Do you struggle to express your truth, your voice, and your authentic self? Do you struggle to find the words that you need to say in communication and in your life? In this video, I'm going to be talking about the importance of going back in time and saying what we needed to say and doing what we needed to do in order to complete patterns of trauma so that we can step into our light and into our power with our voices. I'm going to be covering some common belief systems that we have around our voice that prevent us from really expressing our truth. And then 3 things you can do to start to resolve these stuck patterns, particularly around getting your voice and your authentic self to express itself in the moment. My name is Adam. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am a freedom and clarity coach. I help people get freedom from their past, their traumas, and their wounds, and I help them get clarity around their vision and what they want to do with their lives and how to step into their power. Now, before we dive into the topic for today, I just want to let you know I'm still doing some free breakthrough calls. There is a link pinned in the comment section below. These are amazing 30-minute calls. We go over your vision, what's stopping you, and then some steps you can take to find your power and step into your light. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we resolve trauma, particularly in regards to expressing our true self. So one of the most important things that we can do is to go back in time and find all of the times and places where we weren't allowed to speak our truth or do what we wanted to do or say what we needed to say, and complete those patterns. A lot of what happens with trauma is there were times in our life where we couldn't speak up for ourselves, we couldn't say no, we couldn't get away, whether we were attacked or we were just sitting there listening to a parent or a teacher yell at us or whatever it was. We didn't have the authority or power to express our own truth without either being punished or simply because we were children and we just didn't have any power. So what happens is these things get stuck in our bodies, they get stuck in our brains, they get stuck everywhere. And we go through life with these like pent up energy blockages from our past without even being aware that they're there. There might have been a time in your childhood when you needed to yell at someone and tell them to go fuck off because that's what your body wanted to do and that's what you wanted to do, but you couldn't. So you froze and you just held it in. And that pattern will still be there to this day. I see it all the time in myself, in clients, where there's a block to their voice and there's a block in their nervous system to their voice. And every time they go to speak, they feel this constriction in their body. And the reason is many different times in their life, sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 1,000, where they wanted to say something and they couldn't, because if they did, they would have gotten in trouble with their mom or their dad or whatever it was. I mean, and then there's the worst case scenario where someone's in something like a rape and they, can't say shit because they're being physically accosted. There's very many varying degrees of how this pans out. But so one of the things that you can do, go back in your memory, go back in your mind, go back in time and find where these things are. You can connect to your nervous system. You can kind of meditate a little, do some yoga, dance, do some breath work, do whatever it is to get you to feel your body and find where these blockages are and go into them, into the memory and see what it is that you needed to do or say. And when you do this, you start to get the practice of expressing your authentic self and your body connects to this expression and it begins to release just the subconscious mechanisms of shutdown and resistance. Sometimes we truly are just introverted and shy, but sometimes it's because we were shut down so many times every time we went to speak that we just assume we're going to be shut down now. And so our default is to just go quiet and not say anything. And as you begin to call this energy forth and realize that you had a right to do this then, and you can't go back and do it then, but you can do it now, you will begin to regain the power and authority in your voice. This is one of the main things, that's really present in healing trauma, because we're essentially just a compilation of all these different patterns. And in our lives, like I said, we don't complete them. And so it's about completion and resolution that integrates trauma and brings us back into wholeness. Now, as far as your voice is concerned, as far as expressing your authentic self, what are some common beliefs that you might have that you could look at? And these are things I've had as well. One is that my voice doesn't matter. This is a very common thing. And we tend to think it's just us, but almost everybody I've met on some level or another has this belief that my voice just doesn't matter. It could have been because anytime you tried to speak up as a kid, you got yelled at. It could be because you were very shy and you had a hard time communicating your point of view and people didn't really respect it. It could be because you actually like to be authentic, and we live in a world that's so fucking full of shit and fake and plastic and narcissistic and manipulative that maybe you got made fun of as a child anytime you tried to say anything, or you just hung out with a lot of people that put everybody down, and so you were afraid to speak up because you were afraid you'd get criticized. There's a lot of different reasons for this, and it's good to understand some of them, but that's a common belief. Another one is, if I speak, if I express my truth, I will be too much. This is a very common empath thing, right? It comes from being so deeply sensitive that, there's this polarity of like, if I really express my true self, it's going to put people off. I'm going to push people away. I'm going to be too emotional. I'm going to have too much love. My words are going to be too harsh or too abrasive. So then the polarity of that, or the other side of that, is I'm not enough. So it's like, I'm too much or I'm not enough. And so then what we do is we will recoil and hold ourselves in, hold our voice in, and then feel worthless because we're not expressing our truth. And a lot of times this is where jealousy even comes from, because we tend to be jealous of people that are doing what we know we could do. Like, for example, like I like cars, but I don't really care that much about them. Like, I'm grateful I have a car, but I'm not into fixing cars. So if I know someone who's an amazing mechanic, like, I don't get that jealous because I don't really give a shit. It's not like I'm glad there's mechanics out there, but I don't give a shit about having that skill myself. But when I see someone who's a really good speaker, or who's really funny, or who's a really good musician, and they're out there doing their thing successfully, I have a tendency to get jealous of that. Now, the more I put myself out there and I'm doing it myself, the less jealous I am. And the jealousy is because I know I could be doing it. So when we withhold our voice out of fear, out of trauma, we think we're not enough. And then that also leads to all this like frustration when we see other people doing what we want to do, which is really just express our truth. What's another common belief system? It's similar to my voice doesn't matter, but it's I'm not allowed to speak. Like my mother grew up in an era where children were to be seen and not heard. And she didn't ever say that to me. I mean, she said that she grew up in that era. She never really told that to me. We just imprint beliefs that our parents have onto us. So I didn't even realize till recently that I actually had the belief that I'm not really supposed to be heard. I'm not allowed to speak. And the more we just kind of become present and aware of these belief systems, the more they just dissolve. And then we can also take action, to adjust them. Now, what are 3 things you can do to go back and say what it is that you needed to say, or do what it is that you needed to do? 1, write them out. Write them out. And here is the key to any of these tips. Because of so much of our programming, and this comes from everywhere, it comes from society, it comes from our culture, and it comes a lot from different variations of religion, we have deemed certain things, thoughts, beliefs, or emotions to be bad. And so we, in an effort to combat this, subconsciously, we try to suppress them. But as I've talked about, and I will talk about in many of my videos, that does not fucking work. It doesn't work. So when you need to say something, when you need to write something out as far as what you wanted to express, it's important to do it as bluntly as fucking possible. Seriously, like be absolutely brutal. Say every mean, condemning, like horrible, awful thing you can think of to say, and give yourself permission to say it. Now, I'm talking about writing it out. I'm not talking about going up to your father or your ex-partner and being like, I want to tear your fucking face off with my teeth, because that was how you felt at one point in time. You do want to watch it sometimes when you're actually speaking to people, but as far as writing it out, say it. Write it all out. Just get it out, because it's in there whether you want it to be or not. And if it's in there and you don't say it, It's going to stay in there. And the thing is, people tend to be afraid that they're going to flip out or lose control. The reason people do that is because they're suppressing what they really want to say. If you come into the practice of writing out and saying what it is that you want to say regularly in a safe way, you won't flip out and lose your shit. You will actually become more and more and more peaceful because your body will be used to releasing. You will trust yourself that you can get out what you need to, and everything will begin to calm down and relax. And then as you do this, you will develop more confidence in your voice, and you'll be able to just say what you want to say in a compassionate but strong way in situations, when necessary. Number 2, find a person to role model with. Or you could also use an object. Like if you want to say something to your mother or to your father from your childhood, find an object and pretend that object is your mother. And pretend she's doing whatever she did when you were a child and say exactly what you wanted to say. Some examples of this might be back the fuck off, shut the fuck up, like, I can't stand you, you crazy bitch. Like, I'm not talking about my mom. Okay, I'm just saying, these are things, when you're just doing it with an object or with a role model in a safe space, you can do whatever you need to do. And again, the more you say these vicious things, the less you'll feel like you need to say them in real life. It also really helps also to have an actual person. So you could say okay, what I want you to do is pretend like if you got in trouble because your room wasn't clean a bunch of times, you would be like, okay, I want you to pretend like you're my dad and you're going to walk into the room and start chewing me out because my room isn't clean, and then I'm going to say what I needed to say. It will make a huge difference. Number 3, find a safe healing container sort of space, whether it's breath work or martial arts, and scream it out and fight it out. I don't mean go around on the street and pick fights with people. I mean take a boxing class, take a dancing class, take an ecstatic dance class and shake it out. It's about getting it out of your nervous system. But I find that for anger, anywhere you can go to really express the anger is important. Breath work is really good for this because it's just a whole bunch of people coming together to do the somatic release, and they all collectively are holding a space for each other, and there's a lot of screaming and releasing of this kind of pent-up energy. And these practices of realizing that you had a right to express yourself then and you have a right to express yourself now, and finding all those pieces of your child self that didn't get to, and all those moments in time now when you want to, will help you heal probably more than anything, really. The thing that you can do moving forward is, first off, I'll do other videos on this, but really understanding your emotions and getting in touch with all of your emotions. That is probably the most important thing any human being really can do, because the majority of the problem on the planet is a result from the mind and the emotions being separated and not integrated, and people not understanding themselves and not taking responsibility for their own experience and emotions. But as you learn how to express what you wanted to express from your past, you can also start to study conscious communication. So you can find ways now in each moment to express what you want to say now in a way that's loving and compassionate, so you're not ripping someone's head off all the time, but is also strong and direct, so you're getting the things out that need to be said. Because the vast majority of all the problems in relationships and on the planet is communication. A lot of times marriages break up because each partner thinks they're expressing themselves clearly to the other, but they're not. And there's all these backed up resentments that neither one knows. And what it really is just a matter of each person understanding the other and what they need to say and what the other needs to hear that's still authentic to what they're saying, without selling themselves out, but without not understanding this person too. So let me know how this goes. Please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I have a free energy clearing if you want to download it. It's in the description below. Thank you so much. I look forward to next time, and peace.